everybody. This is Jerry Moore with Phone Suite in Colorado. Thanks for everybody taking time out of your day to join us. Presentation today is all about the evolution of technology, communications technology in particular, and what it means for hotel communication systems. So we're calling it from premises based to the cloud. So there's a lot of technological ground we're going to cover. We're going to keep it on a fairly high level, and we'll drill down to it in with your questions when we get there. So without any more, we'll just move on from there, and let's start talking about some of the options and how we got here in the first place. And why should you care? So technology has, as everybody knows, been taking off with the internet and the increasingly reliable and available broadband. It's getting cheaper as well, so you're able to get very strong connections and reliable connections now in most places where we couldn't even a decade ago. With that in mind, bandwidth is absolutely king for hotels. We know that, where all the reviews are based on. A lot of people will base their entire decision on where they're going to stay based on how good the internet is there. At the same time then, voice over IP, because for the same reason, has been gaining acceptance and has proliferated around not only individuals, but in like the form of Skype, but in the form of voice services over the internet, so voice over IP. And that's been now offered for, well, over a decade, really. I was selling it back in 2002 to small businesses, and it made a lot of sense back then. Cloud-based solutions are just proliferating like crazy. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's very easy management of that system. It's all done remotely. The resources don't have to be necessarily on site, so there's strong reasons to do it. There's still a lot of advantages to having it on site as well. One of the more interesting things lately is the likes of Hilton and IHG have been deciding that going forward with their communication systems, they're going to be basing them on hosted type solutions, and so part of what we have to do is accommodate that and still offer the full range of solutions that our customers may want. In addition to that, and this really strikes at the heart of it, of course, is the money involved, and the payment methods can change considerably compared to what we could do before. In as much as now with that intelligence in the equipment, not necessarily having to reside on site, providers, us included, can now provide what we call solution as a service. So now what hotels can do, rather than do an operating expense versus a capital expense, so instead of purchasing outright a phone system for a large amount of money and amortizing that over time, now you can change that model into an operating expense where you're paying monthly for exactly what you want. Of course, you can still do the traditional purchase or lease any way you want to do it, but the models for what we're seeing into the future point to solution as a service as a choice that a lot of hotels want to make. Now, hotels are kind of weird. I mean, in as much as voice over IP and business voice over IP has been around for about a decade, serving small business and even enterprise businesses, it hasn't really caught on at hotels until just lately, and that's because of these special needs that hotels do have. The first one, and this hits right at the heart of what hotels have to worry about the most, is dialing 911 and 0 is not an option. We've heard a lot of noise about this. They had the case in Texas, I believe, where some young child wasn't able to reach 911 and didn't realize they needed to dial the 9 first. So that's changed. We were very involved with making sure that happened on all our systems as well. We've been doing that for years. Of course, dial 0, getting to the front desk is something that's very important to your guests as well. They're not going to use the phones for a lot of things, but that's one thing they will do. More special needs hotels have, they're open all the time. So it's not like we get the weekend off to do anything, to make upgrades or whatnot. We have to do everything on the fly, have to keep everything running. Communications are the heart of what they do. The biggest rub, maybe, was the fact that, well, small business systems could use the new technology much easier because the IP phones connected directly to the computer network. Analog phones, those you find in the guest rooms of the hotels and even in lower-level admin positions like, say, the pool or the laundry room, are a big part of what hotels have. And replacing them is really a very expensive proposition and doesn't even make much sense. So it took a while for makers like us and others to be able to provide a system that had both in the same box, both analog connectivity so we could connect to those type of phones, as well as provide voice over IP connectivity to the higher level admin phones. In hotels, of course, we have PMS integration, and that's also decidedly different from normal business. So you have to be able to talk to that PMS at all times. You have to understand what the needs of the management are from that PMS. Of course, hotels are very flexible. They're based on time of day, day of the week. And there's a lot of hospitality-specific functions. Wake-up calls is a perfect example. You just don't need that on any other type of system. But you do need it on this. So with that in mind, we combine the technology and those special needs, and we come up with a bit of a evolution, if you will, of how you can look at a phone system in a hotel. So we'll take these one at a time and talk to you. We'll start with just the most traditional method that we're all familiar with. And, of course, it looks something like that. There's a box in the phone room. It's connected to all these strange-looking connectors. And that provides all the communication. So let's kind of review what's there. All the equipment, then, is on-site at the hotel. So we're using the power and the physical space from the property itself. We're connected to the outside world through trunk providers, be they the local telco, cable co, however you're getting your trunks, even SIP trunks at this point. Connectivity to all your devices is through your own cabling in the house, and that's pretty much true for all systems. But here's where things start differing is now, if you've purchased the system and you have it for a length of time, then the property becomes responsible for all maintenance and costs. So something needs to be changed on the system or added to it. They either have to do it themselves or call out a service company to do that. And the property is responsible for all connectivity. So if the phone company, for whatever reason, fails, it's on the property to get the phone company involved and get that thing fixed. But ultimately, responsibility all lies there. So that's kind of the traditional way of doing it. In terms of paying for it, at least over the years, that's usually been done by an outright purchase or perhaps leasing to spread that out. But the ultimate responsibility, whether it's purchase or lease for the equipment itself, is the property. So that's where we start. Now, I'm going to take you to the opposite end of the extreme and take you to a description of hosted, and then we'll kind of push towards the center to see the hybrids. Because like everything, it's a continuum, and there's many choices along the way. So let's look at now what's available with all this technology in a fully hosted system, about the opposite of what we had with the traditional system. So now the intelligence, the system itself, which is these days simply software. It's not embedded in a chip that's on a card. It's software. So that can live up in the cloud at a remote data center, and we deliver that over the internet to the property. Now, because of those special needs, the analog telephones and maybe even analog trunks at the hotel, we still need to have some gear there to talk to us and convert that analog signaling from these devices to something that our remote server can understand. So Gateway does that job. It changes analog signaling into IP signaling that we can all understand and vice versa. So you're still able to keep those analog phones in the room and wherever they belong, but you're also using IP phones in your admin positions. There's still some failover, and we'll talk more about this as we get through it. I'll leave that alone for just a minute. One of the more important distinctions here is that all trunking is done to the data center, save for failover trunks. So you might have a couple trunks at the property just in case. that everything else has failed. But for the most part, your trunking is going to be done at the data center, and this is truly because of the new technology. We're able to offer what we call, at least in our product line, unlimited SIP trunking. So for a known monthly fee, you're going to be able to use as much calling as you'd like. In most cases, the long distance charge is nearly nothing, and you're only based for what you're only paying for what you use. So that much is built right into this. We also use then what we call solution as a service for our payment model. This comes straight out of the hosted world. So you're just paying monthly. Once you've got the system installed, you still have some equipment that needs to be installed, and there's some labor there. But once that's done, then you're paying a monthly fee to use that system. And all maintenance and upkeep is performed by us up in the cloud. So what you really get there is a system that's under warranty, full warranty. We're covering it because our main goal is to make sure that thing's working at all times. You're able to have all upgrades, moves, adds, and changes that you need done to the system. In most cases, can be done in the cloud unless they require a physical cable change or something along those lines. So this way, with the fully hosted system, you've got as much resources as you can removed from the property. It's up in the cloud where it's safe. You're not going to be worried about a lightning hit so much. It's not going to take you completely out, things like that. You have different methods of failover in case your internet connectivity goes down. And we'll talk about those as we go through some of the hybrids here. So that's really what a hosted hotel system looks like at this point. And it is, like I say, pretty much the extreme opposite of what a traditional system looks like in terms of how you pay for it and what you have on site. And those are really the two identifying factors: is where's the intelligence of the system and how do I pay for it? So we'll move on and jump into a hybrid. So the first hybrid we came up with here at PhoneSuite was using that box you see there. And that looks exactly like a traditional PBX, and it is. What it has that a traditional PBX doesn't have is a server built right into it. So it has its computer intelligence built into the server on the board itself. Now, we're still in this hybrid, so what makes it a hybrid is we're still connected to the internet, and we're backing up this entire system to the cloud, to our data center. So we do that either on a nightly or weekly basis, depending on where you are with your system at this point. You can get your trunks either locally from your local cable co, telco, or you can use our trunks, or you can use anybody's SIP trunks. So you have the ability to choose and match anything you want. But the nice part about having that box on site is the failover capabilities that I was mentioning before. Inside this box, we have both the IP connectivity, the intelligent computer part, and the old-fashioned analog connectivity that's going to connect to your guest room phones. With this box, you're able, if the box senses that it's lost its network connectivity, either the internet or LAN or both, then the box can still survive, and it will survive as a traditional TDM or analog system. What does that mean? The guests can still dial 0, they can still dial 911. Admin people can still take calls in on at least a limited amount of lines and still do business. So the reason we came up with this hybrid, it really overcame the fears that came along with going into a hosted system as, oh my gosh, what happens if my internet goes down or it's not good enough? So this way, we're only depending on the internet really for monitoring, backup, and restore. So it's not critical that the internet be connected to the system at all times. And it will work functionally within your own property, regardless of whether the network's up or not. So the next thing, again, now we go back to payment with this system, and what makes it a hybrid again. You can do it the traditional way. You can simply purchase your system. You can lease it. Or, in this case, now, even though we have this equipment on site, we offer a paid monthly solution as a service model. So with that model, you pay for equipment to be installed around the system, whatever it takes, including the phones themselves. But the system itself, you pay for over time as a monthly payment. And so that's really what makes it a hybrid. It gives you the ability to use, have the peace of mind, I should say, that the system will continue even if your internet for some reason has failed. And but you can still take advantage of paying for it as if you were a fully hosted system, and a lot of properties really like that, in as much as they know exactly how much they're going to pay for a working system for the duration of the contract. And it's under warranty as well. So then we move on to our next hybrid, and this one's very similar to what we did before. However, the main difference here is now the connectivity we use at the hotel is third-party made, not by us. So in other words, that box you saw before was a proprietary box of ours. We don't require that you do that. You can use third-party gear. We provide an on-site server at this point that provides the intelligence, but we're connected to these third-party, what we call gateways. Those connect to your analog devices. Those devices are generic. They are not proprietary to us. So the big difference here is the equipment is useful no matter what solution you're using, whether it's ours or anybody else's that would provide a cloud-based service like this. So you have all those same payment options. You can pay for this upfront as a complete system, or you can just pay for it as a monthly service. So it's up to you how you do that. We brought this about just so kind of overcome fears that people might have of, hey, if I don't like what you're giving me, what are my choices moving on, and do I lose my entire investment? And the answer is no, you don't. You only be trading services, and you'd still be using the same gear inside the property. So hopefully that makes sense to you all. And that's just yet another way to offer that same type of equipment. So that's really the two hybrids that we offer. Again, both are available for purchase or for solution as a service type pricing. So up to the individual to decide how that's going to work. So what we like to say, and excuse me for the pixelation here, is whatever you're running, we have you covered here. And there's probably going to be a lot of fluctuations and even more hybrids that come into this. But at least at the moment, PhoneSuite can offer you a complete solution based on what you need. And obviously, every hotel is different. Some are going to be in places where connectivity to the internet is just not strong enough at this point, or available and cheap enough to be ubiquitous. So we'll let you decide on that. We'd be happy to talk to you about it and take you through all these situations as they come up and give you your options from us and what our resellers provide. So I'm here at the headquarters. My name is Jerry Moore, sales engineer with the sales team. You can reach me at that phone number. You can email me or anyone else on the sales team at phonesuite.com. The other thing you can do, and we really encourage you to do, is talk to our resellers. They are awesome. These guys have gone through a great deal of training, and the bar is set pretty high. They know what they're talking about. They're capable. And they can give you that local installation cost and installation and, local support as well. And they're the guys that are on the front lines every day bringing these solutions to you. So we work with them to provide you the best information we can. A couple. And they're great questions. How long is the hosting agreement typically, from Dave Serro? And that's actually a really good question because it's in flux. Right now, the contracts we offer are either a 3-year term or a 5-year term. You can renew those immediately. Just remember that in a hosting agreement, it's not a lease. Even though you're paying monthly, it's not a lease. The difference is you don't own the system at the end of the term. So you're free to walk away from it. You're free to renew it. But typically, it's a 3 to 5-year term. Call center, I'm not quite sure if this is really capable in a call center environment. Again, we're focused entirely on hospitality. The question is will this work for a call center? And I guess it depends a bit on what you're doing. Within the software itself, we have what's called ACD capability, which is automatic call distribution. Typically, it's used in larger hotels that have reservations departments or staff. So you may have, let's say, 4 or 5 agents taking reservation calls from the system, and you may have calls stacked up for those 4 agents. So they're held in queue until the agent becomes available and then delivered to the agent. So that part of the call center is built into it. It's maybe not as robust as what you would be used to from a very customized call center software. We look forward to working with all of you, both resellers and end users, going forward. So from Broomfield, I'll sign off for today, and we hope we'll see you next time. Thanks.